Welcome to the Urban Herald, your essential guide to navigating the urban landscape and beyond.
Great to be here.
Today, our team at the Urban Herald is diving deep into a topic that's really hitting home for many of us. How to keep our beloved gardens thriving when the temperatures absolutely soar.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, watching my usually vibrant basil plant just droop dramatically during a recent heat wave was the moment I thought, okay, we need to understand this better.
It's a sight far too common these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
And with heat waves becoming more frequent, more intense, well, what our sources underscore is that mastering hot weather gardening isn't just about saving one plant.
Right.
It's crucial for sustained garden success, really, worldwide. Heat stress has become a primary limiting factor.
Absolutely. So our mission in this deep dive, then, is to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge from our sources. We want to give you a comprehensive approach,
Exactly.
covering everything from, the underlying science of how heat harms plants to ingenious watering techniques, unearthing the secrets to resilient soil.
And showing you how to choose the right plants that truly love the heat.
Yes, it's about being well-informed and ready to protect your green spaces no matter how small they are.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how fundamentally heat stress alters plant physiology.
How so?
Well, when temperatures climb above a plant's optimal range, their critical internal processes get disrupted. Think of it this way. A plant's photosynthesis is like its internal solar panel, right?
Okay.
But our sources reveal that above 40 degrees Celsius, that's about 104 Fahrenheit.
Wow.
A critical part of that panel, the photosystem 2, essentially gets scorched. It's like their power production just grinds to a halt.
So it's not just that they get hot, it's that their entire energy production system effectively shuts down.
Pretty much.
It's like trying to run a marathon on an empty stomach in a sauna.
That's a good analogy. And then, of course, there's the issue of water.
Right, the obvious one.
This is where it gets really interesting because plants try to cool themselves through transpiration.
Which is like sweating, basically.
Yeah, exactly like sweating. But if they lose water faster than they can absorb it, well, that cooling mechanism fails, doesn't it?
And that's when the damage really starts.
Well, yes. But the crucial insight here is that while we often worry about plants wilting from thirst, the real cellular damage often starts much earlier.
Ah.
Their internal energy factories seize up before they even look thirsty sometimes. That's why prevention is so key.
Okay.
And this rapid water loss, it also disrupts nutrient uptake. Heat stress can cause something called nutrient lockout.
Nutrient lockout, what's that?
It means plants can't access essential minerals even if they're literally right there in the soil.
So the food's on the table, but they can't eat it.
Precisely, they just can't take them in effectively when they're under that kind of heat stress.
So if you're out in your garden, how do you spot trouble early? What are the visual cues that your plants are stressed, before it's too late?
Well, the most common initial sign is wilting. That's the classic one, particularly in leafy greens like lettuce and spinach.
They're the canaries in the coal mine.
They really are. They're usually the first to tell you they're unhappy. Beyond that, look for leaf curling, especially along the edges.
Okay.
As stress progresses, you might see brown, scorched edges or maybe yellow patches appearing.
Right, like sunburn.
Kind of, yeah. And for vegetables like tomatoes, temperatures above 32 degrees Celsius, that's 90 Fahrenheit,
Yeah.
can cause flower and fruit drop, which severely impacts your yields, obviously.
Definitely.
Other indicators, things like stunted growth, premature bolting in cool season crops.
Like my poor lettuce.
Exactly like your lettuce, and just reduced flowering overall.
Now, I've got plants that seem to relish a heat wave, almost like they're sunbathing. But then there are others.
Yeah.
My poor lettuce always looks like it's melting. So it's true, isn't it, that not all plants are created equal when it comes to heat tolerance?
Oh, absolutely.
Like they have distinct plant personalities.
They absolutely do. Our sources highlight those tough Mediterranean types, for instance. Think lavender, rosemary, olive trees.
The classics.
Right. They've evolved characteristics like small, waxy leaves, really deep root systems, and even silvery foliage to reflect heat. They're truly built for it.
Smart adaptations.
Definitely. On the other hand, cool season crops like your melting lettuce, spinach, broccoli, they're very vulnerable.
Yep.
They might bolt prematurely when temperatures get over 25 Celsius. That's about 77 Fahrenheit.
Okay.
Even warm season favorites like tomatoes, peppers, aubergines, they have higher tolerance, sure, but they still need protection during those really extreme heat waves.
So even the sun lovers have their limits.
They do. But truly, the best heat adaptation comes from native plants. Plants that naturally thrive in your local climate conditions. They've been doing it for centuries, after all.
That makes so much sense. Use what belongs there.
Exactly.
So we've understood the enemy of the heat. Now, how do we build our garden's armor? Let's start with the very ground beneath our feet, because healthy soil is truly your first line of defense. But first, actually, let's talk about the cornerstone of hot weather gardening, watering.
Ah, yes, water. Crucial.
We often hear deep and infrequent. Why is that the golden rule? What does it really mean?
It's because deep, thorough watering encourages roots to grow downward, way down,
Okay.
creating a robust, drought-tolerant system. Think of it. Shallow, frequent watering just leads to weak, surface-dwelling roots.
Right, they stay near the top.
Exactly. And they're highly vulnerable to drying out the second the sun hits hard.
Makes sense.
So instead, aim to water maybe 2 to 3 times a week rather than those daily light applications. Ensure the entire root zone gets adequate moisture. That way, your plants become more self-sufficient over time.
Okay, deep and infrequent. Got it. So timing is everything then. What's the optimal window to water without wasting precious resources or accidentally, scorching leaves?
Yeah, timing is huge. The consensus from the research points to early morning.
How early?
Pretty early. Between, say, 5:00 a.m. and 9 a.m., that seems to be the sweet spot.
Why then?
Well, plants absorb water really effectively before the heat sets in, and importantly, the leaves have time to dry before nightfall.
Ah, reducing disease risk.
Exactly. Evening watering is acceptable, but it does carry some risk of fungal disease because the leaves stay wet longer overnight.
Right.
And midday watering, generally you want to avoid that. Huge evaporation loss, plus that potential for leaf scorching.
The magnifying glass effect.
Yeah, those water droplets can act like tiny magnifying glasses. However, big caveat.
Yeah.
If plants show severe wilting during peak heat, emergency watering is always preferable to complete dehydration.
Okay, good point. Break the rules if you have to.
Sometimes you have to, and for automation, you could consider solar-powered irrigation timers. They can be quite handy.
Right. Now, what our sources really underscore is how advanced techniques aren't just for pros anymore. They can actually make a dramatic difference for any gardener. What are some of the most effective tools or strategies we should know about?
Well, drip irrigation is often called the gold standard
Why is that?
because it delivers water directly to the roots. Very little waste. It can reduce water usage by up to 50% compared to sprinklers.
50%. Wow.
Yeah, and it minimizes foliar wetting, so again, less disease. Soaker hoses are a good budget-friendly alternative. They also provide deep, even irrigation along their length.
Okay.
And if you're hand watering, just use a watering can or a hose with a soft spray attachment. Focus on the soil level, not blasting leaves.
Got it.
Oh, and moisture meters. They're incredibly valuable. They give you real feedback, help you avoid both under and overwatering, takes the guesswork out.
That's useful. And with increasing water restrictions in many areas, conservation is absolutely key, isn't it?
It really is. Rainwater harvesting is an excellent option. Get this. 1 inch of rainfall on a 1,000 square foot roof yields approximately 600 gallons of collectible water.
600 gallons.
Yeah.
From 1 inch.
Yep. Rain barrels and cisterns are great for storage. It's a surprising amount of water you could be capturing with relatively little effort.
That really puts it in perspective. A little effort goes a long way.
It truly does. It means that a tiny, consistent effort to capture rainwater isn't just good practice. It's like installing an invisible, high-capacity water reservoir right into your soil. It's the ultimate drought insurance.
Huh. Never thought of it that way.
And gray water systems, water from baths or washing machines. Where they're legal and appropriate, they can supplement irrigation, especially for ornamental plants.
Need to be careful with edibles, though, right?
Definitely. Be cautious with edibles due to potential salt or chemical residues. And passive techniques like rain gardens and swales can also capture stormwater runoff naturally for planted areas.
Okay, so watering is crucial, but what about what's in the soil? Our sources emphasize that the ground itself can be a game changer when it comes to heat stress.
Absolutely. Like a natural sponge or an insulator.
Right. So let's talk about building that robust garden foundation. Soil health and mulching.
Yes. Healthy soil is truly the foundation. You can't overstate it. Soil rich in organic matter holds significantly more water.
How much more?
Well, for context, our sources say that each 1% increase in organic matter can improve water holding capacity by approximately 20,000 gallons per acre.
20,000 gallons per acre. That's staggering.
It is staggering. But what it means for your small urban garden or your containers is that incorporating compost and well-rotted manure creates this amazing sponge-like structure.
Squid holds on to water longer.
Exactly. Retains moisture, and it moderates soil temperature fluctuations, keeps those roots cooler. Plus, it ensures a steady release of nutrients. It's win-win-win.
And mulch, you mentioned mulch. It's a hot weather hero.
Oh, definitely. It sounds simple, maybe, but the impact is massive. A proper layer can reduce soil water evaporation by up to 70%.
70.
Yeah. And it also keeps soil temperatures 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit cooler. That's about 5.5 to 8.3 Celsius cooler than unmulched areas. Huge difference for the roots.
So what kind of mulch should we be using?
Well, for eco-friendly choices, organic mulches are great. Things like straw, wood chips, shredded leaves, even compost itself used as mulch.
And they break down over time.
They do, which enriches the soil further. Bark mulches offer longer coverage if you need that. And biodegradable mulches are also a great option, improving soil health as they break down.
Okay. How deep should the mulch layer be?
Generally, aim for about 2 to 4 inches for most gardens, maybe 2 to 3 inches for vegetables, and a bit deeper, 3 to 4 inches for trees and shrubs.
And anything to watch out for when applying it?
Crucially, yes. Maintain a gap of about 2 to 3 inches around plant stems and tree trunks
Why is that?
to prevent rot and also deter pests from hiding right next to the stem. And remember, mulch decomposes, so regular replenishment is important to maintain that effective layer.
Good tip. Okay, so watering, soil, mulch. What about shade? That seems obvious, but maybe there are clever ways to do it.
Providing shade is another critical strategy, definitely. Almost like giving your plants a mini vacation from the sun, especially during the hottest part of the day.
So, temporary solutions. What works well?
Shade cloth is incredibly effective, comes in different percentages. For most vegetables, a 30–50% shade cloth provides enough protection.
And if it's really brutal heat?
Then for severe heat waves or very sensitive crops, you might need 60–70%. You can install it pretty easily with simple PVC pipes or metal hoop frames.
Okay. Any other temporary fixes?
Sure, portable umbrellas, even strategically placed lawn chairs or temporary structures can protect specific plants or new transplants that are extra vulnerable.
Right. And beyond temporary fixes, what about using plants themselves? Strategic planting for natural shade.
Yes, companion planting is great for this.
Right.
Using tall, heat-tolerant plants like sunflowers or corn or climbing beans. They can provide natural shade for smaller, more sensitive crops growing nearby, like a living umbrella.
Clever. And thinking bigger picture. Trees and shrubs.
Absolutely. If we connect this to landscape design, tree and shrub placement provides invaluable permanent shade. Deciduous trees are great summer shade, winter sun.
Best of both worlds.
Pretty much. While evergreens provide year-round protection if you need that, strategic landscaping can really create beneficial windbreaks and little shade islands within your garden.
Protecting vulnerable plants is also paramount, you mentioned, especially new ones.
Oh, definitely. Newly transplanted seedlings and young plants are highly susceptible to transplant shock and heat.
So what do we do for them?
Use things like row covers, individual plant protectors like little cloches or those temporary shade structures we talked about. It's like sending them to summer camp with the right gear.
Huh? I like that.
And gradual acclimatization helps young plants adapt too.
Yeah.
Don't just throw them out into the full sun immediately.
Right, harden them off.
Exactly. For heat-sensitive veggies like lettuce and spinach, consider strategic planting times, harvesting times. Try to avoid that peak heat altogether if you can.
Or maybe different varieties.
Yes. Try heat-tolerant varieties. Or succession planting plant a little bit early spring, then maybe again in late autumn. And container gardening offers the ultimate flexibility, right?
How so?
You can just pick them up and move them. Rapid relocation during heat wave warnings. If your lettuce always bolts in summer, try heat-tolerant types, give it partial shade, or maybe try alternatives like New Zealand spinach or summer purslane. They handle heat much better.
Good alternatives.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about choosing your garden superheroes. Selecting the right plants in the first place seems fundamental.
It really is. Half the battle is won if you choose plants suited to the conditions.
So what are some of the go-to heat-tolerant options that our sources recommend?
Well, those Mediterranean herbs we mentioned, lavender, rosemary, thyme, oregano, exceptionally heat-tolerant.
Drought-resistant too, usually.
Usually, yes. And succulents, of course. Sedum, agave, they store water in their tissues, makes them virtually maintenance-free in heat.
Okay. What about flowers?
Drought-tolerant perennials like echinacea coneflowers, rudbeckia, black-eyed Susans, salvia, they offer reliable flowering without needing tons of water. And ornamental grasses. Miscanthus, fountain grass, they provide lovely texture with minimal water needs.
And our sources even detail specific plants for different regions, which is incredibly helpful, isn't it?
Yes, because heat tolerant can mean different things depending on humidity, soil type, etc.
So, for example, in the U.S. Southwest.
You're looking at things like agave, yucca, cacti, salvia greggi, gaillardia, bougainvillea, lantana, big mully grass, real desert survivors.
And the Southeast. More humidity there.
Right, so things like ornamental sweet potato vine, vinca, coleus, hibiscus, southern magnolia, live oak tend to do well.
Midwest.
Think coneflower, black-eyed Susan, daylilies, switchgrass, tough prairie
The
plants,
Northeast.
sedum again, Russian sage, mutterfly weed, things that can handle variable condition.
And outside the U.S., U.K., or India, for instance.
Yeah, for UK gardens, things like sea holly, various ornamental grasses are excellent choices. For India, bougainvillea is classic, periwinkle, jamun trees, neem trees are known for heat tolerance.
The key takeaway seems to be native plants, though.
Absolutely. Native plants are truly adapted. They require minimal supplemental irrigation once they're established, and crucially, they support local wildlife too.
Good point. And for edibles. We touched on varieties.
Yeah, look for specific heat-resistant vegetable varieties. Like Roma or sun-gold tomatoes, they tend to maintain production better in heat. Heat-tolerant lettuce and spinach cultivars exist. They can extend your growing season.
And succession planting again.
Yes, it helps you maintain harvests by working around those temperature patterns. It's like playing a clever chess game against the weather.
Okay, makes sense. What about optimizing feeding and pruning? This raises an important question. Should you fertilize during a heat wave?
Ah, good question. My gut says no, but why not? What happens if you do?
That's exactly the instinct most people have, and it's generally correct. No, you shouldn't usually fertilize heavily during a heat wave.
Why not?
Well, high nitrogen applications in particular promote lots of leafy growth, which sounds good, but
But that leafy growth ironically increases the plant's water needs quite significantly. And plants under heat stress already have a reduced ability to process nutrients anyway.
right, the nutrient lockout thing.
Exactly. So heavy feeding becomes counterproductive. It's like trying to force feed someone who's feeling unwell and making them thirstier at the same time.
So what's the alternative?
Opt for slow-release fertilizers or organic options like compost. Apply them during cooler weather before the heat hits so the nutrients are there when the plant can actually use them.
Okay. What about foliar feeding? Spraying liquid fertilizer on the leaves. Can that be a quick fix in a pinch?
It can be an emergency measure, maybe, but you have to be careful.
How so?
Apply it really early in the morning before temperatures rise above, say, 24 Celsius, 75 Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Use very diluted liquid fertilizers, quarter to half strength, maybe.
Diluted is key.
Very key. Kelp meal and fish emulsion are good organic options. But definitely avoid foliar feeding during peak heat or if the plant is showing signs of severe water stress. You could actually cause more harm, like a chemical burn on the leaves.
Good to know. And when it comes to pruning, should you prune plants during a heat wave? My instinct again says avoid it, but why?
You're right to be cautious. Generally, heavy pruning should be avoided during heat waves.
Why is that the case?
Well, pruning itself stresses the plant, and it can expose previously shaded leaves and stems to direct, harsh sun.
Leading to sun scald.
Exactly, which is basically a sunburn for plants. It can do real damage. So focus only on removing clearly dead or diseased foliage if you absolutely must.
Right.
If light selective pruning is necessary for some reason, do it very early morning or late evening when it's cooler, but generally hold off on major pruning until the weather moderates.
Right. Now, heat stress doesn't just affect growth, does it? It also seems to make plants more vulnerable to pests and diseases.
That's absolutely right. It significantly compromises their natural immune systems. They're just weaker, more susceptible all around.
So what kind of problems tend to flare up in the heat?
Well, spider mites, for one. They thrive in hot, dry conditions. They reproduce incredibly rapidly above 27 Celsius, about 80 Fahrenheit.
Spider mites.
Yeah, they can get out of control fast. Aphid populations can also explode on weakened plants. And fungal diseases. It's interesting. They're kind of a paradox.
Oh, so?
Powdery mildew can actually appear when plants are moisture stressed, followed by a bit of humidity. But then things like root rot can develop if you panic and overwater in response to the heat.
Tricky balance. So this is where integrated pest management, or IPM, becomes crucial. What's the core philosophy behind IPM that every gardener should adopt?
Essentially, IPM means you're not just reaching for a spray bottle at the first sign of trouble. You're looking at the whole garden
The
ecosystem.
holistic approach.
Exactly. It's about prevention first, then understanding the pest or disease, and only then choosing the least toxic, most targeted option if intervention is needed.
So what does that look like in practice?
Regular monitoring is key. Catch problems early when they're small. Create habitats for beneficial insects, ladybugs, lacewings, let them do some of the work for you.
Natural pest control.
Right. And when you do need to treat, use organic options first, like neem oil, insecticidal soaps, horticultural oils, and always apply them during the cooler parts of the day to avoid harming the plants or beneficials.
And companion planting can help too.
Definitely. Planting aromatic herbs like basil, marigolds, nasturtiums alongside your other plants can naturally deter certain pests. It's all about creating a balanced system.
Okay. Now, for those of you with container gardens, there are specialized strategies because containers can be particularly challenging in the heat, can't they?
They absolutely can. That soil heats up and dries out much faster than ground soil.
So what should container gardeners keep in mind?
Well, our sources suggest thinking about your container material first. Terracotta looks nice and breathes well, but it also dries out super quickly.
Right.
Plastic retains moisture better, but can sometimes overheat the roots if it's dark colored and in direct sun.
So maybe lighter colored plastic.
That can help. And the general rule is bigger is better. Larger containers offer more soil volume, which means better insulation against temperature swings and more water storage capacity.
Makes sense. Grouping containers helps too.
Yes, grouping them creates beneficial microclimates. They shade each other slightly, increase humidity around the plants. Also, elevating containers off hot surfaces like concrete or asphalt improves air circulation underneath and prevents that heat from transferring directly into the pot.
Little eggs on pots are good then.
They really are, and some specialized techniques can really make a difference too.
Like what?
Things like double potting, putting a smaller pot inside a larger one with an insulating layer like mulch or sphagnum moss in between. That buffers the temperature swings. Mulching the surface of the container soil reduces evaporation, just like in the garden bed. Self-watering containers can be fantastic for maintaining consistent moisture.
I've seen those.
They work well. Using shade cloth specifically designed for containers is another option, and mobile container systems.
Like putting pots on wheeled bases.
Exactly. That allows for rapid relocation to a protected area during really intense heat wave warnings. Just wheel them into the shade.
That's handy.
But just be aware, during extreme heat, container plants, even with all these strategies, may still require daily watering. Maybe even twice daily in some cases. It's a real commitment.
Good to remember. Beyond individual plant care, thinking about the overall garden environment like air circulation and managing microclimates that can make a huge difference too, right?
Indeed. It's about the bigger picture. Proper spacing between plants ensures good airflow, which helps cool them down and reduces disease.
Anything else for airflow?
Well, temporary fans can help in small, enclosed spaces like patios, maybe. Natural windbreaks, like a hedge or fence, can sometimes moderate hot, drying winds. Even your hardscape materials matter.
How so?
Light-colored surfaces reflect heat, while dark ones absorb it and radiate it back out, potentially cooking nearby plants. And water features, even a simple bird bath provides some evaporative cooling for the immediate area. Every little bit helps.
Harvest timing becomes critical too, you mentioned earlier. Many crops, like lettuce or spinach, they just deteriorate rapidly in extreme heat.
They really do. Quality plummets fast.
So, when should we be harvesting our produce to get the best quality during hot spells?
Harvest early morning. That's the absolute best time, ideally before 8 a.m.
Why so early?
That's when the sugars are highest, the moisture content is optimal, and the plant is least stressed. You get peak flavor and quality. Plus, prompt harvesting often encourages the plant to keep producing.
Good incentive.
Definitely. And a pro tip, monitor weather forecasts closely. Prepare before a heat wave hits. Many regions now offer early warning systems. Use them.
Stay ahead of the game.
Exactly. And keep detailed garden records. Note what worked, what didn't, which plants handled the heat best in your specific microclimate. You learn so much year to year.
That's great advice. And finally, let's not forget about the gardener, us. Our well-being is just as important as the plants, maybe more so.
Absolutely critical. You can't tend your garden if you're suffering from heat stroke.
Right, so common sense things.
Common sense, but easy to forget when you're focused. Schedule your gardening activities during the cooler morning or evening hours. Avoid that midday sun.
Stay hydrated.
Constantly. Drink plenty of water, wear sun protection hats, sunscreen, light clothing, take frequent breaks in the shade. Don't try to be a hero.
Use tools to help.
Yes, use long-handled tools to reduce bending over. Use wheeled carts or wheelbarrows to minimize carrying heavy things. Understand your personal heat tolerance limits, and crucially, recognize the early signs of heat-related illness, dizziness, nausea, headache. Stop immediately if you feel unwell.
Because a thriving garden isn't worth risking your health.
That
Wow. We've covered a lot today here on the Urban Herald, from the nitty-gritty physiology of heat stress right through to advanced watering, soil health, strategic planting, pest management, containers, and even our own safety.
It really shows that maintaining a thriving garden in these challenging summer conditions requires, well, a comprehensive, holistic approach, doesn't it? It's not just one magic bullet.
It truly does. And what's fascinating here, I think, is how our understanding of gardening in extreme heat kind of reflects a broader need for resilience, not just for our plants, but for ourselves as we adapt to a changing climate.
That's a great point.
By applying these tips, you're not just growing a garden, you're cultivating a deeper connection to nature, maybe, and empowering yourself with knowledge that makes a real difference.
We definitely encourage you to try these strategies, observe your own garden's response, see what works best for you, and continue exploring.
Maybe even consider, as a final thought, how your thriving hot weather garden could become a small oasis. Not just for you, but maybe for local wildlife birds, pollinators providing them with vital shade, water, and sustenance during those really tough heat waves.
That adds another layer of reward, doesn't it? Knowing you're helping the local ecosystem too.
For more insights and stories that matter to urban life, keep listening to the Urban Herald. Until next time, happy gardening.
Happy gardening.